You're listening to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. Our show provides listeners with an insider perspective of Texas A&M athletics and its greatest supporters. This podcast will bring you exclusive interviews with coaches, athletes, donors, and the dedicated staff of Aggie Athletics and the 12th Man Foundation. You ready? Let's dive into today's episode. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call. This is your host, Ivy Robinson, and today I have not one, but two guests in studio. 12th Man Foundation President and CEO Travis Dabney is back. He's back on the podcast. And first-time guest, JT Higgins, who serves as president of Texas Aggies United, is making his debut on Answering the Call podcast. So JT, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Ivy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So JT and Travis, I've just got to know, if y'all are getting ready for a game of golf, who's winning the round?
JT, you want to take that?
I don't think that I could beat Travis on my best day. Yeah.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, here's the reality, Ivy. Neither one of us can play golf worth a flip. and that's unfortunately the truth. Now, 10 years ago let me move back even further. Pre-married Travis, pre-kid Travis, maybe I could have considered myself a decent golfer, but not today. JT just was an extraordinary coach of golf.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've never played competitive golf, and if I have free time on a weekend, that's usually the last place I want to be is on a golf course, and I would rather hang out with my friends watching ball game, having a beer and a steak, maybe a cigar afterwards. So I'll meet them in the 19th hole after they're done, and we'll have a great time. But
So we're not getting any tips for best swing or anything like that on this podcast today.
I can help people with their golf game. It's my own that leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, and JT, I think he would acknowledge this. He'll get in between your ears.
Yeah.
It's not about the actual technical golf swing. He'll leave that up to somebody else. But, you know, he can ask you why you tried to hit it over that bunker that's 275 yards away, but you only hit a ball 250.
Right.
He can get in your ears pretty quickly about that kind of stuff.
You know, Ivy, one of the misconceptions about golf coaches is that they're teaching people how to play golf. If you are at this level and you are bringing in kids that need to learn how to play golf, good luck in the SEC.
You're not going to be the golf coach for very long.
Exactly.
You're just fine-tuning the talent.
Exactly. It's no different than any other sport. I'll give you a very quick story. When my first day at the University of New Mexico as a head coach, me and Fran Fraschilla both got hired on the same day. He was basketball coach and I was golf coach. Well, Fran Fraschilla is about 5 foot tall. And we walked in the room together, and literally half the people thought I was Fran and he was the golf coach. And so, but so if a 5 foot nothing guy can coach basketball, a big guy that played basketball can coach golf. So there you go.
Anything's possible, right?
Big guy's short name.
Exactly.
So for our listeners who don't know JT, I'm going to give JT a little background here, bio. So JT is a Hall of Fame golf coach who guided Texas A&M men's golf to its first national championship in 2009. JT, let's start there. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and career path and how you got to where you are today?
So I coached golf for 31 years. Started at UNLV as an assistant and then head coach at New Mexico, and then that brought me to A&M. Left for a few years, went out to USC. That didn't work out so good. I wasn't sure what I was going to do from there, and I got a call from Travis Dabney saying, what do you think about what's going on with NIL and collectives and all of those kind of things? And we had some good discussions with a couple other people in town, and, I thought there was a place I could help, and I love this university, and I wanted to help, and so that brought me back here.
That's great. Travis, you know JT well. Why do you think he's a great fit for Texas Aggies United?
Everybody likes JT. He is just, and I've told him this before, he comes into a room, he has this big infectious smile, and he's welcoming to everyone, and people like being around him. And so he is the absolute perfect fit for this job for Texas Aggies United in this new era of NIL. And, I'm happy for him. I'm glad as my friend that he's back in town and that we get to hang out still. And I missed him while he was out in LA. I understand why he did what he did, but I'm glad he's back and he's doing a great job for Texas A&M, representing Texas Aggies United and in this really important endeavor of name, image, and likeness for our student athletes.
So speaking of NIL, Travis, I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to focus on that topic today for this episode. I think it's going to be a really great episode, educational. We're going to get as clear as we can and transparent as we can with NIL and the support at Texas A&M for our student athletes in terms of NIL. So, Travis, you mentioned this in episode 1 that this podcast will be a platform to continue educating our listeners about NIL initiatives. And for those of you who are listening, if you have not listened to that first episode, highly recommend it. Cue it up, go listen to it. But today, I want to talk to you, Travis, and JT specifically about this NIL support. So, JT, let's start with Texas Aggies United, the official NIL partner of Texas A&M Athletics. Can you provide just some clarity on how the collective is structured, how it's set up, and how it operates?
So Texas Aggies United is an LLC. It is a for-profit company. We actually sell shares, buy into what we're doing. And from there, we sign the athletes to contracts where we purchase their name, image, and likeness from them. And then we go out and we can market their name, image, and likeness for them. It is for every sport on campus. Obviously, football is the biggest, but we also do every sport from basketball, men's and women's basketball, baseball, all the way down to the country club sports, tennis and golf. I mean, anybody that needs help, we're willing to help them. So we work with all the coaches and all the programs, and I think now we're up to about 156 athletes that are under contract with us. So it's turned into a pretty big endeavor.
How do you think the structure compares to other schools?
I think we're very unique. I don't know of anyone else that does it like we do. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I know that it works for us. I think we're really fortunate to have the support that we have from the university, the athletic department, the 12th Man Foundation. We really have some great partnerships and a lot of help within the community. We feel good about the way we're doing it and how it's going.
Travis, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think Texas Aggies United benefits Texas A&M athletics and our student athletes?
I would go back, Ivy, to a conversation that I had with Chris Cooper, who was obviously very involved with the establishment of Texas Aggies United and incredibly supportive of NIL efforts, as well as the 12th Man Foundation and Texas A&M. And Chris and I talked about this. This was in that July time frame of, I guess, was it 2022 when NIL came into reality. And he and I were discussing the fact that if Texas A&M or any school turned its back on the opportunities related to NIL, they did it at their own peril, and it would greatly harm anyone who didn't want to participate or be supportive of that. And I think that has been proven to be correct. And so, Texas Aggies United and NIL at Texas A&M, I think is a great partnership. I think it's providing outstanding opportunities, and I'm looking forward to even greater things in the future. And I would just tell you that all of us at the 12th Man Foundation are supportive of NIL opportunities for our student athletes here at Texas A&M. We're supportive of JT and the program at Texas Aggies United, and we're going to help any way that we can, and we will always be taking that position moving forward.
JT, going back to you really quick, what are the collective's goals specifically? Like, as leader of that organization, what's the vision? What are the goals?
So the immediate goal is to provide NIL opportunities for all of our student athletes and to make sure that all of our programs can compete at the level we want to compete at, which I think everyone agrees is competing for SEC championships and national championships across the board. That is what we're here for. That's what we're trying to help both the athletes and our coaches accomplish. I think the long-term goals are to find some sustainable revenue streams that will recur every year, that we can move forward and have a great business plan going forward. A lot of times this is catch up, right? You have a payroll and you're chasing payroll. We want to get to the point where that's not the case, that we know this is sustainable, that we know where the money's coming from month in and month out, year in and year out. And that's what we're working with all the different entities at Texas A&M to accomplish.
How do you prioritize, let's say, your efforts and the funding that comes in? How does prioritization work in terms of supporting the teams, the athletes?
Well, much like the 12th Man Foundation, we don't tell people where to put their money. If you are a football fan and you want to support the football program, we want you to support the football program. If you want to support baseball or basketball or golf, tennis, whatever it is that you want to do, we want you to tell us where you want that money to go. Now, NCAA rules don't allow you to say a particular athlete that you want it to go to, but you definitely can designate the sport that you want it to go to. And then we are 100% of the time do we listen to the donors' requests and we work with them on making sure we fund the money goes exactly where they want it to go.
Travis, do you think the support for NIL has been strong and positive? And are we being innovative and creative with our approach to funding NIL dollars?
Ivy, I think your question about creativity is a really good one. And I want to give credit to not only JT and Texas Aggies United, but Chris Cooper and Dan Sparks and a lot of other people who have put a lot of effort in at Texas Aggies United. I know they're working hard at creatively approaching NIL efforts every single day. And I also think that there are people in the world today that like to criticize, and their reason for criticism could be a litany of things. We didn't get a first down on a 3rd and long or whatever it may have been. But I see it every single day from these guys, and we talk about it every single day. And it's a labor of love for them. And I think the thing that I would want to point out the most is this, is just because you don't see Texas Aggies United or JT or whatever on the social channels going, look at me, look at what I just did, doesn't mean they're not being creative, doesn't mean they're not bringing in the money necessary to support our efforts. It just means they're quietly going about doing their job, which, by the way, is the Texas A&M way.
And what do you think about this, JT?
I think people see other universities come out and that they're doing, whether it's a talent tax or we've got 5,000 people giving X number of dollars. First of all, I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think that that's what people want to get out there. But I also know that there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And to think that we're not doing everything we can to build the best NIL program in the country is a misconception. We are working together to make sure it's something that works for Texas A&M and for Texas Aggies United. And I just think the partnership and the collaboration's been fantastic, and it's just going to get better.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we need to credit is when Trev Alberts got here as athletic director, he provided some real leadership and brought everyone to the table. And it was really the first time that was done. And Trev he should be recognized for some quality work and some leadership about bringing everyone together cohesively and pointed at the same goal. And so, I'm incredibly optimistic about a couple of things. One, Trev and his leadership of the athletic department. 2, JT and his leadership of Texas Aggies United. And beyond that, our coaches. I think our coaches are being incredibly thoughtful about how they apply these invested dollars that come from Texas Aggies United and other sources to bring young men and young women to Texas A&M that match up with the core values of this institution that can help us win and make us proud along the way.
Absolutely. Anything else you would like to add, JT?
I think Travis is right. Look, for the most part, I ignore most of the criticisms or whatever comes our way. And I realize that a lot of the things we do is behind the scenes. But we have such a great partnership with the 12th Man Foundation, with the athletic department, with Learfield and Texas A&M Sports Properties, TexAgs. There's so many people working together to make sure that this endeavor gets funded. And I think we're very creative in the way we do things. I think that we show a lot of initiative, and we're pretty self-motivated to get things done. And a lot of people before I got here worked really hard to put it in place, and it continues. Our staff gets bigger and bigger. We have more people helping. We're doing more marketing. We're doing more things to attract the masses, right? I know Travis has heard this because he's done this job forever, but there's 500,000, 600,000 Aggies out there. And if you can just get every Aggie to give how many ever dollars, we would be fixed. Well, here's the thing. Every Aggie does give back in some way to some cause. It just might not happen to be sports, right? If you're helping your kid's school or you're helping your community, everyone's doing something. And I realize that those dollars are limited. So we're grateful for the people that do help. So, maybe it's the coach in me, but literally every day I tell myself something. Every problem you have, look in the mirror. That's the guy to blame. And all the things that are good in my life, it's the people behind me. So I think that's the attitude that you have to have towards this is like, let's have the best NIL program we can have. We do the best of everything at Texas A&M. We have the best facilities. We have great coaching staffs. We have great academic support. You just go on and on and on. I think that's the same thing with this is that we need to make sure we have the best NIL program there is.
JT, I think one thing I'd like to add that you just said is we're committed. We are not resting on our laurels. We are looking for new ways to be supportive, and we will constantly be taking that approach.
That is 100% true. And that comes from all the meetings you and I sit in all the time. That is the leadership of this university has made that clear to us. And I think that when you look at what other schools are doing, yeah, they may be going all in on football. But to look what we're doing across the board and supporting all of our sports, I think that we've got to be, and maybe I'm overestimating, but it's definitely in the top 10. And that's out of how many ever schools there are. That's pretty impressive for what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would want to say, when we talk about the positive things that NIL is accomplishing, that's not to say, hey, we're there, we're successful.
We're not close.
We have everything we need.
Yeah.
Nope. But we are committed.
Yes.
And we are working hard every single day to try and provide opportunities.
And the other thing that I think that we really try hard to do is to change the narrative. And we have to get Aggies on board and understand this is a positive for us. This is a space where we can compete with anybody nationwide. And we've got to get past I don't like it. I don't agree with it, because whether you like it or agree with it, it's here. And it is part of recruiting. It's part of retaining athletes. It is part of, if you want to be successful and you want to have a winning program, this is a major component, just like facilities, just like support staff, strength and conditioning, go on nutrition. It is 100% part of the program, and we've got to be on board with it.
It's the new frontier.
Yes.
And there have been countless new frontiers, JT, over the years. But you were at this kickoff event that we did at the start of a football season, where I relayed this story that Texas A&M athletics, the entire athletics program, was at a crossroads in the late 90s. And a decision had to be made. Are we going to invest in facilities while other programs around us are investing in facilities? Or are we going to sit on the sideline? And we had an individual by the name of Jack Little who stepped up and led the effort for the 12th Man Foundation. They went around and looked at facilities across the country and saw that we were behind. And we got galvanized. And the message was delivered. Hey, this is a positive for Texas A&M University. The success that we can potentially have on the playing surfaces. Let's do this. We got behind it, and look at us now. Facilities were right there at the very top. It's not all that different as it relates to NIL. If we're out there saying we don't like it, well, there's going to be others who are going to join in with us and say, we don't like it either. And the next thing you know, you've got a problem. Well, let's be clear about this. We've had plenty of people who said, we see this as really important, and we're going to invest in it, and we're going to go. Reagan Swinbank comes to mind. Yep. Carl Pfluger comes to mind. Chris Cooper, Dan Sparks. You go down the list, these individuals have stepped up, and they have led, and they should be appreciated for what it is that they have done. Everybody has to understand, in this new frontier of college athletics, this is what it's going to take to be successful. And it's not just this. It's this. NIL. It's mental health through the 12th Man Foundation. It's nutrition through the 12th Man Foundation. Scholarship cost. It is all of it combined. And all of it produces outstanding things for Texas A&M University and produces outstanding young men and young women that are going to go off into the world and represent Texas A&M.
Couldn't say it better myself. Awesome.
Let's talk about that partnership, Travis, and the collective effort that Texas A&M, our approach into NIL support here. So can you and JT, I want y'all to both weigh in here, talk about the partnership that 12th Man Foundation has with Texas Aggies United?
The partnership, we work with JT, we work with all of those that are involved with Texas Aggies United to make sure, and our coaches, to make sure that we are supporting and helping them identify individuals that might be interested in supporting NIL. In addition to that, Ivy, what we're doing is when we have conversations with donors, and we obviously have a lot of conversations with donors, we are presenting the full menu of options of how you can support Texas A&M athletics. And in some cases, we're actually sending people away from our organization and straight to JT and Texas Aggies United.
Yeah, and it works the other way too. If someone comes to me and says, "Well, I want to fund scholarships, I want to put my name on a building," those kind of things, then you need to go talk to the 12th Man Foundation, and we send them. It is definitely a collaboration, and I know that Texas Aggies United would not be in business without the 12th Man Foundation. Right now, there's no way we could have made it this far, and going forward, we're going to need their help every step of the way. We have to be in unison and lockstep together to make this work. And I'm telling you, since early spring, I think it's been really successful. But as Travis said before, we still have a long way to go. We need everyone's help. We are by no means, just set for the next year or so. We need more and more donations, more and more investment in what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that, JT, you're going to continue seeking investment in Texas Aggies United. We're going to continue to assist Texas Aggies United in every way that we possibly can, while also fulfilling the mission of the 12th Man Foundation. This is such a unique time period in college athletics, and it's not perfect, but I do think that the narrative around NIL is really flawed. And, Ivy, you've been witness to this with me before, but I'm 100% a capitalist. I 100% believe you are worth what someone is willing to pay you. And I 100% believe that when we put 100,000 people in Kyle Field on game day, they're there to watch those young men play football. And when we put a lot of people in Reed Arena, they're there to watch those young women and young men play basketball. And there is inherent value associated with that, and I think they should be paid for it. And I also think that when they are compensated for that, the reality ends up being is it provides opportunities for them and for their family. It's not forever. You're not going to make so much money in that you never have to work again. That's a fallacy. But we are creating an opportunity, whether it is to put some money in the bank, whether it is to help provide and pay for an education for yourself or for a family member, or whether it is just to provide a little bit of a peace of mind for you and your family, which is no different than any of the three of us right here at this table are doing right now, providing for our family.
There's nobody working for free. This is not a volunteer organization, right. And everybody wants to be compensated and they want to feel value. And we live in America, and that's how you show people they're valued, is to pay them well.
Travis, you bring up a good point that I think there are a lot of aspects to NIL support in the ways it is impacting our student athletes. People aren't thinking about those unique ways in terms of it's allowing them to save for their future, or they're getting to impact their families. But JT, I interviewed you actually earlier this year for an article that I wrote for 12th Man Magazine about the various ways to support NIL here at Texas A&M. And when I interviewed you for that story, you said something that really presented a great perspective, in my opinion, and I'll quote you here. So you said, "One of the best things I've seen come out of NIL is for our student athletes who have a partial scholarship or no scholarship at all. The money from NIL helps cover the costs of their education, pay for room and board, and relieve some of the financial pressures on their families, end quote. Can you speak to that, expand upon that a little bit, and then talk about some additional ways you've seen NIL positively benefiting our student athletes?
Thanks, Ivy. There's as far as scholarship, we were talking about it earlier. I want to say the last study I saw when I was coaching, about 75 to 80% of college graduates left college with over $50,000 of debt. So a chance for young people to leave school and not have that burden and not have to owe money for the rest of their lives. I look, on the one hand, student loans and Pell Grants and all those things are great because the education is going to help you in life, obviously, and help you get a great job. And you can, and like that, I always say that was the only bill I ever paid with a smile on my face. I paid my student loan every month, never had a problem with it. But it would have been nice to not have to pay that back. That would have been fantastic. So I really believe that's the best thing I've seen with NIL is that really across the board, you're seeing a lot of athletes are getting their school paid for, and they're pretty happy about that. They're not even looking for more money than that. On the other hand, a lot of the athletes that are making substantially more money than that are starting their own foundations. And, you look at the basketball program, there's 4 athletes on that team that have started foundations. And they've got where they're giving school supplies back. Wade Taylor does it here and in Dallas, does it in Bryan and in Dallas, where he's giving needy kids school supplies. I think that's awesome. There are some great things that people are doing to give back to their communities and support their families and where they came from. So I think there's a lot of positives coming out of it.
Travis, have you seen anything in terms of unique support and unique ways that these athletes are turning around and impacting their communities?
In the end, these young men and young women are having an opportunity, whether it is to pay for their school or to put some money in the bank and provide peace of mind to their family and to themselves. And I just think that is incredibly valuable, and I think it is worth supporting.
So, JT, for those listening who want to get involved and support our student athletes through Texas Aggies United, is there a required minimum amount to contribute? How do people get involved? Where do they start?
Well, so for any dollar amount, you can go to TexasAggiesUnited.com and you can contribute. There's recurring gifts. You can do a monthly gift or you can do an annual gift. You can give a one-time donation. Or for major gifts of $10,000 or more, you can contact me directly. And we can sit and talk about investments in Texas Aggies United, the tax benefits that go with that, and kind of get you started down that path as well. So there's numerous ways to help.
Awesome. How much of the contribution goes to the student athletes when they make a contribution?
Right now, about 3 to 5% of our money goes to overhead, and then the rest goes straight to the student athletes. So we are very good stewards of the money. I think it's funny. I tell people all the time my job is to raise money, not spend it, and I'm pretty frugal. I try not to spend any money that we do not need to spend.
What are your final thoughts on Texas A&M's position within college athletics and the NIL landscape?
Well, I believe that when Texas A&M, its former students and supporters make a decision that they're going to do something and do it at the highest level, that we've never failed. And I don't believe that's going to be the case here. And I believe that the young men and young women that come to this university are outstanding, and that also includes our student athletes, obviously. So I am so excited for the future, what is to come. Super excited about Texas A&M football and Mike Elko, Trev Alberts, his leadership of the athletic department. And I don't think there's any question, Ivy, that our best days are ahead, and I'm just looking forward to being a part of it.
Look into the future. JT, what makes you excited?
So things that make me excited are the leadership of this university, President Welsh, Trev Alberts, Travis Dabney. I think that we have the right people in place, all of our coaches. I think we have everyone in great positions of leadership. That makes me very excited. There's only one uncertainty is we just don't know what's coming, right? So we're trying to get ourselves positioned in the strongest place we can be for regardless of whatever the court rulings are and all of those kind of things. Because once we know what's coming, I think we have people that are ready to go and attack that situation. But that's really, we're just waiting to see what the future holds.
You know, I think the other thing that I would add, all we're seeking to do with this podcast today is to educate people.
Yep.
And it's a really it's a really challenging situation from the perspective that you and I are living in some ways NIL every single day. And most people have lives.
Yep.
And they're living those lives, and then they step in and maybe they read something on Texas Aggies or read something in the newspaper or something like that, and it's just a little piece of information. But to understand the entirety of this and how it interacts with the house case and how it interacts with how student athletes are being compensated for their name, image, and likeness, and where those dollars are coming from, and how that all intertwines with being competitive in the college space. I mean, we could spend hours talking about this today. But the reality is you only have so much time for people to listen to a podcast like this and to be able to absorb ultimately what our message is. And here's the message, Ivy. Support the 12th Man Foundation. Support Texas Aggies United. We have outstanding leadership, as JT mentioned, at Texas A&M University, both in administration and coaches. And I believe so deeply in those people and what it is they are going to bring to Texas A&M University. And I believe so deeply in the young men and young women who put on the uniform of Texas A&M Athletics. So I'm just asking you guys to support. You may not love NIL, but the reality is it's here. It's not going away. And if we're going to be successful at Texas A&M, we need your support.
Well said. Well said. Travis Dabney and JT Higgins on Answering the Call podcast. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12 Man Foundation. A special shout out to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Hoffman, and to 12 Man Productions for their generous use of the studio. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every donor and season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. We will be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.